It's kind of hard to believe now, but just a few years ago, the world was, well, normal. We were all just going about our lives, traveling, working, getting ready for a new year. Nobody had a clue that in a city called Wuhan, an invisible threat was just beginning to stir. And that's really what this is all about. This is the story of that threat, COVID-19. We're going to look at how it all started, how it absolutely engulfed the planet, and how humanity, against all odds, fought back. So let's get into it. Okay, so our story really kicks off in late 2019. And what started as this weird medical puzzle in just one city, well, it was about to spiral into a crisis for the entire world. The speed of this thing was just breathtaking. I mean, think about it. Late December 2019, it's a local mystery. By early January, scientists have already pinpointed a brand new coronavirus. And just a couple weeks after that, in this incredible feat of modern science, its entire genetic code is shared with the whole world. That one act started the race for a cure. But by the end of that same month, the WHO was already sounding the global alarm. And right there, that was the problem. Even with a strict lockdown in Wuhan, in our super-connected world, it was just too late. The virus had already hitched rides on airplanes, quietly planting seeds on every continent before we even knew what was happening. All of this was leading to something none of us had ever experienced. This wasn't some distant problem anymore. The virus was here, and it was about to force the entire planet to just hit pause. This was the moment everything changed. When the World Health Organization made that declaration, it wasn't just some technical term. No, it was the world's leaders admitting the virus was out of control and that every single country was now on the front line. Just let that sink in for a second. The buzzing streets of New York, London, Tokyo, they just went silent. Airports, usually full of chaos and energy, became total ghost towns. It was this surreal, bizarre experience that billions of us all went through at the exact same time. And suddenly, we were living in this new reality. It was defined by these drastic measures you could never have imagined. Businesses just shut their doors, a lot of them forever. Kids were sent home from school for what we thought would be a few weeks? Words like masks, border closures, and quarantine became part of our everyday lives. Life as we knew it was just gone. But, in the middle of all that quiet chaos, a whole new kind of hero emerged. While so many of us had to stay home, it was the doctors and nurses in overflowing hospitals, the people delivering our groceries, the cleaners keeping things safe. They were the ones who risked everything to keep the world from completely falling apart. Now, behind the scenes, a totally different war was being waged. The scientific community was fighting on three fronts at once. First, they had to see the enemy, right? That meant creating accurate tests. Second, they had to figure out how to save the people who were already sick, so they started testing old drugs for new tricks. But the real endgame, the only true way out of this mess, was that third step: create a vaccine. So this next chapter of the pandemic, it became this epic race. It was a story of humanity's greatest scientific achievement going head-to-head with the virus's own superpower, its ability to constantly change and adapt. Honestly, this is just mind-blowing. What usually takes a decade, scientists pulled off in less than a single year. The game changer was this new mRNA technology. Basically, it gives our own cells the instructions to fight the virus. It was like something out of science fiction made real, and it was a massive testament to what happens when everyone works together. And this really became the story of the next 2 years, right? This constant tug-of-war between incredible hope and a relentless new problem. On one side, you have the absolute triumphs of the first vaccines arriving in December 2020, but on the other side, you have the virus fighting back, mutating into new strains, from the deadly Delta wave to the insanely contagious Omicron, and each one threw a new wrench in the works. And as all these waves kept coming, we discovered another cruel twist to this story. For millions of people, just surviving COVID wasn't the end of it. This condition, long COVID, showed us that even a so-called mild case could leave people with these awful, debilitating symptoms for months or even longer. It was a stark reminder of the virus's long tail. Which brings us to the final chapter, really the aftermath. How do we move on from here? How do we find a new normal? And maybe most importantly, what on earth did this whole painful experience actually teach us? I mean, this is the question, isn't it? It's the one we all have to ask. Because if we go through something this massive and we don't learn from it, we're basically doomed to repeat the same mistakes. The lessons were pretty clear and pretty tough.
We learned just how fragile our global systems are, but we also saw how unbelievably powerful science can be when it's united. The pandemic ripped the Band-Aid off of deep global inequalities, and it showed us that a virus isn't the only dangerous thing that can spread. Misinformation proved to be just as deadly. But through it all, we got a reminder that in a crisis, compassion might be the most important resource we have.
And so, finally, in 2023, the official declaration came. The global health emergency was over. Now, that didn't mean the virus was gone, not at all, but it did signal a major shift in how we were going to deal with it. COVID-19 had become what's known as endemic. Basically, it joined the club with diseases like the seasonal flu, something that's always around at a predictable level. It became a permanent part of our lives that we have to manage, not a crisis we have to defeat. Our relationship with this virus had fundamentally changed, forever. And this really is the final takeaway. The story of COVID-19, it's not just history. It's a blueprint for the future. It's a call to action for all of us to remember what we lost, to learn the hard lessons, and to prepare for whatever comes next. Because if there's one thing we learned for sure, it's that the only way we'll get through it is together.